Bonjour et bienvenue à notre réunion de midi. Aujourd'hui est le jeudi 7 août. Avant de passer à vos questions, permettez-moi de souhaiter le bienvenue à un groupe de jeunes européennes venus visiter la Commission européenne. Nous espérons que vous trouvez cette réunion de midi intéressante, ainsi que la visite à les institutions européennes. And with this, we have no other announcement for you today. We can now take your questions. Let's start here in the front. Go ahead.
Thank you so much for giving me the floor. Zoriana Stepanenko, Radio Free Europe. So my question concerns the negotiations that were held yesterday in Kremlin between Steve Witkoff and Vladimir Putin. So the outcome is, as we see, that there is a forthcoming summit, possible summit between the US president and also between Vladimir Putin, Russian president, and the three-way summit between Russian president, Ukrainian president, and the US president might follow this bilateral meeting. What we hear from those announcements that President von der Leyen was not part of the call yesterday, could you confirm that? And also that the European leaders and the European Union as itself is not invited to those negotiations on the leaders level. So what is your response to that? Thanks.
Thanks. Indeed, the President was not in the call yesterday. She has been extensively debriefed, was in touch with the leaders. Like always, she's in constant contact with them, especially on such an important matter. Of course, you know our position on peace talks very well. We support a just and lasting peace for Ukraine, and our commitment on that has not changed in any way. For what concerns these possible trilateral peace talks, I understand that the timing, the format, the logistics are still to be seen, so it's very much premature to say exactly what is going to happen. If and when there is further information, we will, of course, be happy to share it with you. Other questions on this specifically? Let's stay on the topic. Yes, let's continue. You need to wait for the microphone to turn red. Okay,
Thank
now you can go.
Yes, Ksenia Polska, Deutsche Welle. Now I can hear myself. Yeah, it's on the same topic. Maybe I would like to ask. I guess it's a question for Anita on like a deeper assessment of what happened in Moscow. The talks with the representative of President Trump, Stephen Witkoff, with Putin. What do you think the implications are of this visit for the general peace process and the movement towards peace negotiations in Ukraine? And also, as we know, so far, the European Union has not played an active role in this particular branch of negotiations. So what could the EU's role be, and how could the EU help Trump to actually achieve the goal of sitting at the table and starting the peace negotiations? Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Ksenia. Three main points, and this is a position we have reiterated several times. First of all, no one wants more peace than Ukraine and the EU. It is very clear that Russia is not interested in any peace as such, because we have seen it in their actions, not in their words. That being said, of course, we welcome any pressure when it comes to ensure that Russia is at the negotiation table. We welcome any work that goes into the direction of a sustainable ceasefire. On our side, the EU is supporting Ukraine throughout. We work also with all our international partners to ensure that Ukraine is as strong as possible on the battlefield, so Ukraine can be the strongest also at the negotiation table. And throughout, you have seen this through the sanction packages that we have adopted most recently, the 18th sanction package against Russia. You have seen it through our military support to Ukraine, military and defense, but also on the training of Ukrainian soldiers.
Thanks, Anita. Other questions on this? Yes, go ahead.
Angela Scoogens from TVP World. So I understand that von der Leyen wasn't looped into the calls yesterday by Trump, but Zelensky posted on X today that he's going to speak to a range of European leaders about his priorities for the summit if it's to take place, and the second priority is establishing a format for leaders. Is anyone from the EU level considered to be invited to this format to secure long-term peace? From Zelensky, thank you.
Thanks. On the leaders' call, I understand that also in this case the format is still being agreed, so I will be able to have more information on this later in the course of the day. But let me be clear that we are in constant contact, even just this morning and now as we speak, with our Ukrainian partners and the other European leaders. So talks and contacts are ongoing at all levels, even just now as we are at the midday. For what concerns the call later, as I said, the format is still being decided. Other questions on this? I have one hand in the press room and then a few from remote. Go ahead.
Valeria Pashko, Public Broadcaster of Ukraine. I'd like to clarify. So despite all the requests, for now European leaders or the EU representatives are not invited to this meeting. Is it a disappointment for the EU to be not invited to this possible trilateral meeting between Trump, Zelensky and Putin?
Let me clarify. There is no request and no decision taken on the format. What we have said is that the format, the timing, the logistics are completely unclear at the stage. They're still being decided, so we will have to see how things develop, and this is premature. So, of course, there's no disappointment on something that has not been requested and something that has not been decided. I have a couple of hands from remote. Paul, I know it's on another matter. Gabriele as well. Rebecca, is it on this? I don't know if it's on this or not.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. No, it's not on this. It's on climate.
Okay, then I would ask you to wait for a moment. It's on this. Go ahead.
Thanks. Eddie Wax from Euractiv. So who has Ursula von der Leyen spoken to about Ukraine in the last 24 hours?
As I said, she has been extensively debriefed by the other leaders, and Commission officials are part of talks and contacts at other levels as we speak, both with European partners and Ukrainian partners. Eddie, if you have a follow-up, you raise your hand. I give you the floor again, and then you can speak. Go ahead.
So that means Alexander Stubb, Friedrich Merz. Can you give us the names of who she's spoken to, please?
No, I don't have names to give you. I can just confirm that she has been extensively debriefed by several EU leaders. I see no other hand raised on this. Are there other questions on foreign affairs for Anita? Go ahead.
Thank you very much. I'm Lily from Reuters. In this morning's Politico Playbook, there was a WhatsApp interview with EVP Teresa Ribera, where she spoke about the situation in Gaza, and she said, I quote, if it is not genocide, it looks very much like the definition used to express its meaning. Is this the position of the European Commission? Thank you.
Anita.
Thank you. When it comes to the situation in Gaza, the Commission, the HRVP, the EU has been very vocal on the situation on the ground that is untenable, and the fact that the killing of civilians is indefensible and civilians can never be targets. The EU has also reiterated the need to have a large-scale humanitarian aid, and all our efforts, as we have also discussed this on Tuesday, are going in this regard. And when it comes to establishing international crimes, this will be the competence of national courts as well as international courts and tribunals.
Thanks. Go ahead, Lily, with your follow-up.
Sorry, Anita, so just to make sure that I understood correctly, from your description of the EU position, you did not mention the term genocide or its definition or meaning. So does that mean, should we understand that Teresa Ribera was not speaking for the European Commission?
So, as I said, when it comes to this, we have a clear line when it comes to the establishing of facts, and this is something that the Commission is doing through its regular and constant reporting. This has just happened also the other day when the Commission has sent its monitoring of the situation on the ground to the Member States. So this is what we can say on this.
Other questions on this matter? Go ahead. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Laura Dubois for the Financial Times. I understand that the Commission and the EAS have circulated a new assessment on the situation on the ground to Member States. I was wondering if you could tell us what your assessment says, what the humanitarian situation is like at the moment, and if you think that the Israelis are fulfilling the terms of the deal that you struck with them on this. Thank you.
Unless Anita wants to start taking the question, I will ask Anna-Kaisa to join me. Anita, anything from your side before I give the word to Anna-Kaisa?
No. So what we had, as I have said before, we have as a result of the High Representative's understanding on access to improve the humanitarian situation in Gaza with the Israeli counterparts. Now we're having also the follow-up on this, on the updates that have to happen regularly. This has happened just the other day. And also yesterday, indeed, we have updated the Member States as a part of this regular reporting. There has been progress in this regard in relation to a number of parameters, and Anna-Kaisa can further go into that on the humanitarian side. The issue is, however, that despite this progress, the situation remains difficult in terms of the impact on the ground.
Thanks, Anita. I would ask you to stay close while Anna-Kaisa takes this answer, and then we will come back to you if needed.
So you asked about the progress on humanitarian aid making its way to Gaza. What Anita was saying, that we are doing this regular reporting to our or updating to our member states, and this is what we have done. As Anita said, that there is partial progress in relation to the different parameters that we have set for humanitarian aid. There's been numbers circulating on, notably on the access of trucks of aid, additional crossing points and fuel supplies. So what we can say is that the situation, obviously, almost needless to say, the situation remains very, very difficult in terms of impact on the ground. And not least due to the accumulated effect on the blockade. Israeli authorities continue not to authorize or allow EU access to Gaza, and as a result, the European Union, and more specifically our Directorate General for Humanitarian Aid, ECHO, could not verify directly all this data. We do not have presence there, so we rely on information from our partners, notably the United Nations. So what is happening is that we monitor the information that we get from United Nations and from our partners, and we evaluate all these trends in more detail. We remain obviously in regular contact with the United Nations on this and our other humanitarian partners as regards monitoring aid deliveries, and the data that we collect is based on this information, and the data we inform and update our member states with is based on this information. We do not have presence there, we do not have access there, so we rely on United Nations on this information. What we can say is that despite this partial progress, we are not where we would want to be in terms of the amount of trucks being able to make their way to the destination.
Laura, you have a follow-up?
Thank you very much. I just wanted to clarify, does the data indicate then that the Israelis are not fulfilling the terms of the deal that you agreed upon in terms of number of trucks, fuel, etc.? Thank you.
What I can say at this stage is that we are not allowed access, or our trucks rather are not allowed access to the extent that we would like to see happening.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Just in light of your comments and what Anita said earlier about in terms of the EU's efforts to help the people in Gaza. So just to clarify, because the situation is not how the European Commission would like it to be, could you detail what efforts are going forward, whether they're phone calls, whether there's discussion among member states with the Commission? Just to clarify, because usually if in the case of Ukraine, when we saw that there were issues with what was happening in Ukraine, there was immediately talks, and then we saw changes. So in terms of Israel, what pressure is being applied to have the result that you want to see? Thank you.
I will focus more on the humanitarian aid side, and Anita might be able to complement. But the issue is rather that we do not have access to go ourselves. We do not have that because the EU is not considered a humanitarian actor, such as the United Nations, for example. So then, of course, on the humanitarian aid side, there are contacts. Director General from DG ECHO was in the region last week, and Commissioner Labib has offered to visit Gaza. So these are sort of the parameters within we have to operate at the moment. But on the rest, if Anita has something to add.
Anita can perhaps provide additional information, but of course diplomatic efforts are also ongoing. And let me just remind you the decision of the College of a couple of weeks ago, I don't remember the date exactly, on the Commission's proposal on the suspension of Horizon. As you know, it's a decision that has been adopted by the Commission, and now it's with the Member States for their confirmation. And of course, we also continue to be in contact with the Member States on this and on other aspects. Questions on this? Go ahead. On the aid specifically, I would keep it not to have a ping-pong between the spokes if possible. Thanks. Yes, Mose, I see you after. I will come to you. First, I went there with a question.
Still on the aid, I'm sorry, but we don't even know the numbers. You know, apparently you have some numbers, you cannot verify the numbers. Why can't we say that they are not fulfilling the agreement? I mean, what are we waiting for to say they are not fulfilling the agreement? We don't even have numbers, reliable numbers. When we made the pact with them, what was the pact? Just tell us sometimes some numbers that we cannot verify. I mean, it's been a long time since we are waiting for at least the numbers. Thanks.
Thanks. I think Anna-Kaisa has been clear that the figures we have are not verified by us. We rely on our partners on the ground. So, of course, you're very welcome to reach out to the United Nations for their views on the numbers. Israeli authorities are giving their views on the numbers. We have not been able to verify these numbers, and this is why Anna-Kaisa is not providing additional detail at this stage. One thing is clear. The numbers are not sufficient. The trucks that are going in, the aid that is being provided is not enough. And this is where our efforts are focusing on supporting the population as much as we can and on pushing to get more aid in the Gaza Strip. Other questions on this? Mose.
Yes, thank you. I also had a question about the numbers, but I suppose that this new assessment, which was not let's say, available last Tuesday when we asked the same questions, and now you have it. I mean, if the report includes any numbers, like, for example, if there is any trend, that would be useful to get those numbers, even if they're not been, let's say, verified by the EU. But I have, let's say, related questions. Do you see any shift in the delivery of humanitarian aid from this GHF, Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, which is so criticized, to delivery by United Nations agencies and international humanitarian organizations with which EU cooperate? Thank you.
Mose, let me just also say, as Anna Kaiser and Anita were saying, that of course we have regular updates of our member states on all this, and of course these take place time to time, quite regularly actually. There has been some partial progress, as Anita was saying, on trends, and on the foundation I would leave it to Anna Kaiser if she has more.
On the foundation, we do not follow them. I mean, we really we monitor from the Commission services. We monitor what happens to our aid that is being dispatched via the United Nations, and the information that we get from them is the information that we will be then able to report to our member states, as we did yesterday.
Thanks. Other questions on this? Go ahead. I then have Rose from remote, but I don't know. Suniva from remote, but I don't know if it's on this. Yeah.
Hi, Camille Condessus from AFP. You just said you were relying on UN partners on the ground since they are not letting you in. So the UN-backed experts from the IPC said there is, I quote, a worst-case scenario famine now unfolding. So do you share that assessment? Thank you.
What we have been very clear with is that the situation is absolutely untenable, and when we're calling and repeatedly calling full access to all humanitarian aid that is waiting to get to the destination.
Question on this. Go ahead.
Do you feel betrayed by the Israelis?
Look, this is not the question right now. The question right now is we have a civilian population that is in an extremely difficult situation, extremely difficult conditions, not sufficient aid going in, and our focus is on getting the support there. We work with all our partners, including Israel, to the main objective. The rest is less relevant at this stage. Question from Suniva on something related, as far as I understand. And then still here in the press room. Okay, I will get back.
Thanks for giving me the floor. I just wanted to clarify the update process, because we'd understood it was going to be every 2 weeks on this deal struck by the HRVP on Gaza. Can you confirm it was done after 2 weeks, and yesterday also after 2 weeks after that, which means 1 month, and that it's the EAS making the update, or is it the EAS and DG ECHO based on figures you're getting from partners on the ground? And how is this update happening? Is it a written report? Are you talking about it during a meeting? How does it happen? And second question, I know it's been asked several times, but I don't think there's been an answer on the numbers. I think it's very clear that you can't monitor them yourself, but for us to understand why you're saying progress is insufficient, we need to understand what you're basing that on. So I would like to reiterate again, and I think many people have asked this, can you give us an idea of the progression that you deem insufficient, and how is it insufficient? What shows that in what you're hearing back from WFP and the UN? Thank you.
Suniva, I give the floor to Anna Kaiser on the process. There's regular updates on the member states. With the member states, we're really in contact with them, especially in such a difficult situation. On the numbers, we have told you we rely on UN numbers. We're not able to verify them themselves. It is UN numbers. You're very welcome to reach out to the UN to have the figures that they are providing to us as well. Anna Kaiser.
The reporting is a joint exercise by the EAS and the European Commission, more precisely by Director General ECHO, the Director General for humanitarian aid, and it basically gives a progress report on always focusing on a couple of days, and yes, we do this regularly, and there was one issued yesterday to member states.
Thanks. Other questions on this? Yes, go ahead.
Hi, Sam from the Associated Press. Just to go back to a little bit of the basics of this deal, was it verbal or written? First question. Second is, I think we all understand that y'all ain't got the numbers, but we want to understand what was in that deal, what was agreed to between Callas and Gideon Saar.
Questions for Anita?
This was part of the outreach, the extensive discussions that the High Representative has had with her counterparts in this regard.
Questions on this? Go ahead. Mose, you already asked a question on this. I have many others. Let's go. Yeah.
It's not exactly on aid. Yesterday, 3 groups of the European Parliament sent a letter to President von der Leyen, Costa, and their representative, calling what's happening in Gaza genocide and asking to do more. Actually, doing more would be doing something from our side, because we're doing nothing. But they're talking about not just the aid, but also about the killing and the number of people that are keeping dying every day. My question is, have you received the letter? Is there a response to the letter? And is there even a debate about doing something, not just because of the aid coming in or not, but also about the general situation of Gaza? Because violation of Article 2 is not just linked to humanitarian aid. So is there at least a discussion, I don't know, just some thought sharing between the Commission about the next step, or we are just waiting for the decision to suspend partially the Horizon program? Thanks.
So, on the letter, I can confirm it has been received. It will be replied to in due course. On the rest, I don't agree with your remarks that are not really a question. I have to say that we have been extremely clear from the very beginning that the situation is unacceptable on all fronts. Hostages have to be released and the civilian population cannot suffer any longer. And we have taken all efforts at diplomatic level, whenever possible, to advocate for a solution of the ongoing conflict. We have always said that we support the two-state solution, and this is the diplomatic efforts that we're carrying through. Of course, the situation in Gaza is unacceptable for the civilians at all levels. Where we can help is especially through the humanitarian aid deliveries, and it's what we're doing. We are the number one supporters of the Palestinian authorities, and this feeds into the process as well. Our diplomatic efforts have not been spared at any time. We have been working with our member states, so actions have started from the very beginning and continue to take place on all these fronts. We were focusing on aid because that is the questions that you were asking, you and your colleagues. Anita, anything you want to add? Other questions on this? Mose, if it's a brief one, yes, otherwise I will change topic.
I want to refer to the previous question. We know that this was not a written agreement, but a kind of understanding. But still, we also heard from the technical briefing that the Commission, talked about six asks or demands from the Israeli side. So you have some targets, let's say, to do this monitoring and compare if they have been fulfilled. So I would like to ask if you could specify exactly what were those 6, let's say, I suppose, more quantitative demands by EU towards Israel. Thank you.
Mose, and then I give the floor to Anita if there's anything she wants to add. You know the rules of this House very well. We have technical briefings that are off the record or on background for reasons. This midday is on the record. So it does not work really if you take information that has been provided in a different register and that use it on the record. That's not how we work, and please don't do it. Anita. Okay, let's change topic. Anything else on foreign affairs for Anita while she's here with me? I know the colleagues online are on other topics, so I will close this chapter. Thanks, Anita. I will take other questions. Let's start with Paul from remote, and then I'll go back to the press room, of course. Paul, you have the floor. You need to press and speak.
Yes, perfect. Can you hear me?
Yes, and we sort of see you.
Great. Thanks for giving me the floor. It's a question for Olaf on tariffs. So President von der Leyen said that the US deal brings certainty in uncertain times. Now President Trump has already threatened higher tariffs if the money for energy doesn't flow. So high likely Trump will continue to be erratic in his decisions. So what exactly made the European Union confident that President Trump will stick to his agreements, and isn't a too optimistic view maybe a little bit naive?
Thank you for your question, Paul. All I can say from here is that we're very clear on the commitments that have and have not been made as part of our agreement with the US. As regards commitments by the US side, vis-à-vis the EU, we have a commitment for a 15% across-the-board tariff ceiling. That captures all products, and it is the only deal that the US has signed with any partner that does not stack the rate on top of existing most favoured nation tariffs. So we're very satisfied that in that context, where a few short weeks ago we were looking at potential tariffs of 30%, we have managed to stabilise and secure transatlantic supply chains for the benefit of our industry, for our consumers. And as regards the commitments the other direction, what we have transmitted to the US administration is sort of aggregate intentions as regards energy spending and as regards investment in the US economy by EU companies. Those commitments are in no way binding. The Commission does not have the power and would never seek the power to try to enforce something like that, but they are faithfully transmitted intentions because we reached out to our industries, we talked to our member states to get a clear picture of what their intentions were. Therefore, we were able to say that to our US partners in good faith. And I'm not going to say anything more at this point.
Questions on trade? Go ahead.
Thank you so much for giving me the floor. Camilla is from Politico. So I had two questions. The first was if you could give us an update on the state of play regarding the joint statement with the United States and as well the expected tariff reduction on cars. And did you have any more indication from the Trump administration regarding the exemptions you've been pushing for, including on spirits and wine? And then my second question would be to ask for a reaction from the Commission to a tweet from US Senator Graham saying that the EU is also buying Russian oil from India and that basically the US is watching. Thank you.
Thanks for those questions, Camille. So to your first question, let's be very clear here. Right now, we have a political agreement that was agreed between Presidents von der Leyen and Trump. We are working on stabilising the text of a joint statement between the EU and US that will flesh out that political agreement. The joint statement, by the way, also will be non-binding, but it will be a roadmap, if you like, a series of clear political commitments. The US has committed to the EU that the 15% across-the-board tariff ceiling I mentioned before will include EU exports of pharmaceuticals, cars and semiconductors. And we look forward to the US implementing as soon as possible that commitment. I can't give you precise timelines on when that will be. Those are questions for the US. And I would say, indeed, when it comes to the joint statement as well, that to all intents and purposes, the ball is in the US court now, and we look forward to them helping us to move the process forward so we can agree the joint statement and get to the more important business of looking at other areas where we can reduce tariffs and so on. On your second question concerning the tweet by Senator Graham. We agree with Senator Graham that all steps should be taken to not help finance the Russian war machine. But let's be clear, the EU has been saying this clearly and consistently since the beginning of Russia's brutal and illegal aggression, and moreover, we have acted on it. We took strong, specific action to tackle this issue, not only for any one specific country, but for all third countries. So, first, we banned the import of Russian crude in our 6th sanctions package. Therefore, if any third country imports Russian crude and in turn exports it to another jurisdiction, that crude is considered Russian oil and thus covered by our import ban. Second, when it comes to refined oil products, so the most recent package, the 18th sanctions package, imposes an import ban on refined oil products derived from Russian crude. This means a total clampdown on refined product imports made from Russian crude that are processed abroad and delivered into the EU. In other words, we have taken decisive action to prevent Russian crude oil from reaching the EU market in any form.
Thanks. Questions on this? Yes, go ahead.
Angela Scugins from TVP World. Going back to the political agreement, we heard a senior EU official stating a couple of days ago that the agreement was 90 to 95% done, more or less sitting with Washington. What is the hold-up? What are they telling you about the obstacles to getting this done? Because our understanding is that it's almost there. Thank you.
Thanks for your questions, Ange. I really think the question should be directed to the US at this point. I mean, I can only agree with that assessment you just presented. I mean, on substance, the vast majority is agreed, and from our point of view, we've made very clear where we can and can't go. Now we look forward to our American counterparts doing the same.
Yes, let's continue there. Yeah, and then just behind.
Hello, Thomas Malin-Nelson at Euractiv. I just have a question about the auto tariffs. Have you heard anything from the United States about when exactly the tariff reduction from the 27.5% to 15% is going to take place? Have you heard anything about that or not? Thanks.
Thanks for your question, Tom. I can't give you a timeline on this. As I've said, we have a clear commitment from the US that our 15% across-the-board tariff ceiling will also capture EU exports of cars and car parts, pharmaceuticals and semiconductors, and we look forward to that being implemented ASAP.
First executive orders came a week ago. We have no doubt that the others will come soon. Questions on this? Yes, just behind. Yeah.
Thanks very much. It's Edith Hancock with Dow Jones. Just going back to the semiconductors update that we got from Trump yesterday, if you could explain a bit further the EU's position on what seems to be a carve-out for companies that invest in US manufacturing. Is this a concern at all for the Commission, given that it has its own goal to increase Europe's market share in global chip production?
We don't see a contradiction. European companies have the freedom, the sovereign right to invest where they think is most advantageous, and we don't believe that any intention to invest in the US is going to necessarily lead to any adverse impact here in the EU. We have taken steps across the board to improve the competitiveness and the attractiveness of doing business in the EU, and we expect that that will bear fruit in the months and years to come.
Thanks. We have a cluster of questions over there. Continue. Yeah, and then I'll move to the side.
Koma from Euractiv. Given the EU's continued imports of Russian crude, do you expect we will also be hit by a punitive tariff from the US president?
Look, I have nothing to add to what I said before. I mean, we're very clear on the fact that we have taken as the strongest possible action in terms of our successive sanctions packages to hit the Russian economy where it hurts in order to weaken their ability to wage their war. We are working on every possible front to try and reduce even further the import into the EU of Russian fossil fuel products. We've taken huge steps in recent years, and the work continues to reduce it even further.
So basically we agree with the US on the ultimate objective, and we have already taken action and continue to take action on it. You have a follow-up.
You say you take the strongest possible action, yet a ban on Russian oil was not included in the legal proposal for the Russian fossil fuel phase-out law.
On this, I'm looking at Anna Kaiser, whether she has elements to provide. Anna Kaiser, you want to join us? Otherwise, perhaps, can we park it 1 second so I finish with Olof, and then Anna Kaiser will revert after. Go ahead with your question.
Thank you. Sorry, Antoine Moutot for Japanese TV and HK. Sorry to insist again on this point, but since Donald Trump said on his social network that the tariffs already take effect since midnight Washington time, some hours ago, I was still wondering whether you stick to your understanding that the tariffs will only enter into force from tomorrow midnight, which would mean that there has been an exception for the EU. Thank you.
Thanks for your question. Our understanding is that the tariffs are now fully in force.
Other questions? Go ahead.
Thank you very much. Jorge Valero with Bloomberg. Question on since the 7th of August today was the day when when the countermeasures will have kicked in, they were not suspended again, and we're still waiting for the executive order for the car tariffs. Is there any moment when the Commission will consider that the US is not honoring its part of the deal and therefore trigger a discussion on the unsuspending the countermeasures?
Thanks for your question, Jorge, but right now we're in a moment where we're focusing on the positives. So, as we've said from here many times, the objective for the European Commission, working on behalf of the entire European Union, has been to make the best of an extremely challenging situation. And we're satisfied broadly that that is what we have achieved. A few weeks ago, we were staring down the barrel of 30% across-the-board tariffs from the US. That would have been prohibitively high for EU exporters. Thanks to the hard work of our President, of our Trade Commissioner, of our trade negotiators, we have succeeded in reducing that 30% to 15%. As we've said from here before, is that the perfect outcome for the EU? Certainly not. Is it the perfect outcome for the US? Not either. They would have wanted even further extractions from us. We held firm on multiple fronts. So the 15% across the board tariff captures everything, including, as I mentioned, the sectors relating to pharmaceutical exports, car and car parts exports and semiconductor exports, which will be implemented by the US shortly. So to answer your question, right now we're focusing on extracting the maximum amount of positives from this situation. Once we have a joint statement in place, we view that as a platform from which we can continue the work to find new areas to reduce tariffs, to find other areas where we can cooperate constructively with the US. We're focused on that. All that being said, the countermeasures that we have now suspended can at any moment be unsuspended. And additional countermeasures, which we have discussed in detail with our member states, can also be looked at as and when necessary. But right now, the focus is on getting the best possible amount of outcomes for our member states, for our consumers, for our businesses, for the European Union.
And perhaps just to add that this is not the best situation or solution for us, because we have always said from the very beginning that we believe that tariffs bring no gain for either side of the Atlantic. So of course we would have aimed for a different outcome. But on the other hand, the US administration was always very clear in its own objectives, and considering the aims of the US administration, this agreement is the best possible outcome with its certainty, predictability and its overarching 15% tariffs with exceptions. And of course work continues. Jorge, you have a follow-up.
Thank you both for your detailed answer, but if I may ask, I come back to my question just to clarify a bit, if I understand, since you want to focus on the positive side, but at the same time you mentioned the possibility of the possibility of the countermeasures remain. So shall we conclude that you have unlimited patience to wait for this executive order for cars, or is there you are exerting any pressure on the US to deliver as fast as possible?
Dear Jorge, we have limited patience for hypothetical questions. So, with your kind understanding, we're not going to go beyond what we have already said. Thank you.
We have no reason to put into question the commitments. We have a commitment, we have a political agreement. It is being implemented step by step. This is where we are at. The rest is pure speculations. Go ahead. Okay, just 1 second then. Any other, thanks a lot for flagging. Is there any other EU-US trade-related question for us? I see Sandor has a hand raised from remote. Gabriele also had a question. Sandor, first to you if it's on this, then Gabriele.
Yes, thank you. So I would like to come back on the draft Graham and Blumenthal bill that Donald Trump said that they could impose a secondary tariff of 500% to any country that is importing Russian fossil fuels if there is no ceasefire. I would like to clarify, in your understanding, would this draft bill apply to any EU countries who are importing LNG or pipeline gas or oil? Thank you.
I think we will need to check the details, but the situation is the one that Olaf was describing before. So at this stage, we have nothing else to add. If we have anything, we will revert. Gabriele.
Grazie, Arianna. Do you hear me? I guess.
Yes, and we see you as well.
Yes. Thank you. Sorry, I mean, now it has become sort of a follow-up, actually, to the first question. But to better understand, did the US administration made it clear to you in Turnberry that tariffs would go up to 35% in case those firms' pledges of 600 billion euros were not kept, or the latest threat by President Trump came as a surprise to you? So was this discussed, the risks and the consequences, actually, of not implementing that commitment? And sorry to insist, Olof, but for the implementation of the tariff relief, are we talking about on cars and aircrafts? Are we talking about days, weeks, or what? Grazie.
Grazie, Gabriele. On the timings, I really can't be more precise. As I've said, we have these clear political commitments from the US, and we look forward to them being implemented as soon as possible. And on your first question, what was the first question?
The first question was on the investment commitments, but there we have said, I think, look, we have an agreement. This has been reached at political level between the President and President Trump. In the talks, we have presented those that are the intended planned investments by private companies and member states, which we gathered through extensive consultations with them. And this is what we have told the US, that this is the planned investments. Of course, there has been never a commitment from our side in the sense we don't have the powers to do it, and it's just aggregation of demands or intentions that we have conducted as an exercise. Olof, anything?
Thanks, Arianna. No, nothing to add to that. We're not going to go into any further level of detail about what was discussed between the presidents in their meeting. We're only going to focus, as I've said, on the implementation of the commitments that were made, that we have explained to you clearly from here and repeatedly. So that's all we can say at the moment.
Other questions on the EU-US agreement? Edith, is it on this?
Thanks very much. Just to go back on the semiconductors point as well, was the EU given any notice that Trump was going to announce this 100% tariff, notwithstanding this agreement that you have on the 15% cap? Or were you kind of, learning this in real time?
Thanks, Edith, but we're not going to provide a commentary on what we know and when. And we're also going to focus on, the concrete facts before us and separate that from threats about future tariffs. So what we have before us is the implementation of the US executive order, which places a 15% across the board tariff ceiling for exports from the EU into the US, and a clear commitment that, with a further executive order, I understand, our semiconductor exports from the EU to the US will also be captured by that 15%. That's what we're focused on right now, and we're not going to go into the details on the rest.
Bina, I see you have a hand raised from remote. Is it on the EU-US agreement?
Yes. Do you see and hear me?
Yes. Hi.
Yes. Thank you. I just have a question for the semiconductors and pharmaceuticals. So for now, both tariffs is 0. Is that correct? And you're waiting for the 15% ceiling to be implemented later on? Thank you.
Before Olof replies, just to flag that we will have the fire alarm kicking off in 2 minutes. So if you hear a very loud sound, don't worry. It's our usual monthly testing. It will be over in a few minutes. We will just be a bit patient, but just wanted to give a heads up. Olof.
Thanks, Bina, for your question. Yeah, that's my understanding, but let me please just double check to be 100% certain about what is applying at this precise moment in time, and I'll come back to you to confirm.
On pharmaceutical, I think indeed it's the MFN rate, which at this stage I believe is 0%. They have the US has a 232 investigation ongoing. Once the 232 investigation will be concluded, then eventually the 15% cap should apply. But Olof will double check that I am not saying anything mistaken and will reconfirm to you. I do not see other hands raised on EU-US. Rebecca, I know it's on climate, so different matter. I will first go back to the press room where we had another trade question. Then I will give the floor to Anna-Kaisa for her energy-specific reply. And then I will continue with other topics.
Thank you. I had a question about Mercosur because I think there was the idea that it would come before the end of summer. And according to the British Met Office, there are two types of summers. One could be before the end of August and one could be before the end of September. So I just wanted to check what the latest is with Mercosur. Thank you.
Remark.
Wait, mic here, folks.
You can press.
Thank you for your question, Razieh. As you know, the glorious continental summer is usually considered to be over with the autumn harvest at the end of September. A beautiful oration about the European summer, Razieh. You know, when we say by end summer, we're usually talking about the end of September, and we will have news on the Mercosur agreement and our proposal, which we will send to Member States when it is ready.
Olof, pity that the alarm interrupted your disquisition on the autumn harvest with a bit of the agri-spirit from the first mandate. But okay, apart from this, I do not see other questions for Olof, at least on trade. Therefore, I will ask Anna-Kaisa to join me for the reply we owe on energy. Can't really recall the question. If maybe, Anna-Kaisa, you can summarize it briefly to remind everyone. Thanks.
Nico, it was your question, right? And you were wondering whether the repower phase-out proposal included oil. It does. Yes?
Nico, you have a follow-up.
You don't believe me?
I think I read the proposal just as much as you have. Olof specifically said that the EU was undertaking the most concerted effort to get rid of Russian crude or all sorts of Russian oil. Yet the legal proposal you made as part of Repower EU phase-out ban does not contain an explicit provision banning Russian oil in Europe.
It does. I'm not sure I understand, because it does cover both gas and oil. And also, I mean, it presents the measures for full phase-out of Russian oil, because oil is sanctioned at the moment. We have exemption for 2 countries at the moment to continue importing Russian oil, but otherwise it's sanctioned, and the roadmap proposal that we presented in June does cover oil as well.
Nico, you have a follow-up. Last one, please.
Sorry, but it mentions oil, but it only requires member states to make plans and to list, but it doesn't actually contain a legal ban as such.
Yes, but I mean the idea is that we will achieve a full ban. Or full phase-out, rather. I mean, this is the term we use. But I mean, we can discuss semantics outside of this exercise.
So the objective is clear. It's there. It's in the text. On the legal wording behind, I would ask you perhaps to tackle it bilaterally. But the objective is clearly there. This we can confirm.
Always enjoy a bilateral tackle.
Nico, why not? Other questions on energy for Anna-Kaisa, or I see that Rebecca had a question on climate, so perhaps let's first on energy, let's go back to the press room here, and then Rebecca on climate. Thanks.
Hi, Fatima Sadouki from Montel News. I had a question regarding the attacks on the Trans-Balkan gas pipeline yesterday or a couple of days ago by Russia. at the border between Ukraine and Romania. Unless I've missed something, I haven't seen any reaction from the Commission, but I'm more interested in the response. Is there anything that will be done in terms of security for infrastructure at the border now, considering that we have EU countries being affected by that? Thank you.
This is a very unfortunate continuation to relentless attacks by Russia on energy infrastructure in Ukraine. We have been informed about these attacks, and there has been, it's slightly less than 0.4 million cubic meters a day of gas that flows from the EU to Ukraine via the Trans-Balkan route since the end of June. So our information is, because we obviously follow this very, very closely, our information is that there is no immediate impact on security of supply of the European Union, and we continue to follow the situation very closely. And to our information, gas continues to flow.
You have a follow-up. Go ahead.
Yeah. I understand that the flows are continuing, but I guess my more specific question is about concretely, I know you're monitoring, I know you're aware, I know the Commission is taking action, but more, what are you going to do differently this time? Because there is a threat for flows into Ukraine, especially for filling storage ahead of the winter. Are you planning alternative routes, alternative measures concretely with other countries specifically as a result of this threat?
We have continuous collaboration with all countries in the region. Our first and foremost concern always is the security of supply of the countries. So we will need to see what measures can and cannot be taken, what is the responsibility of the Commission, where do the national authorities come to play, etc. This is something that we monitor very, very closely, but I do not have any concrete measures to announce to you now. It is something that has been happening and hopefully will not happen anymore, but we have to factor that in as well. It is relentless what is happening, how the infrastructure is being destroyed, and obviously going into the winter or the heating season, although according to Olaf we're still safely in the summer months for some time being. But winter is coming, so we're getting ready, and this is very, very, very much on our radar. And all jokes aside, we do keep very close contact with all countries, both member states and other countries in the region, to stay informed and to have a good strategy to shield ourselves from these situations from happening.
Rebecca, we can now take your question on climate.
Okay. Hi. Thank you. Rebecca from Carbon Pulse. I was just wondering if you could confirm that the initial impact assessment for the 2040 target produced by the Commission last year did not make any analysis of carbon credit use. And also, how did you engage on the topic? Who were the stakeholders involved regarding this decision? Like which companies, which think tanks, etc. And also, there was an article saying that there will be an impact assessment on the use of international carbon credits that will be carried out. And also I was wondering what the timelines are for that, considering that there's now political discussions ongoing. So will it be before the political discussions are finalized, or is there a month or timelines? Thank you.
More globally to your question, so this concerns the climate law for 2040 that the Commission presented last month. So there was an impact assessment when we done on this when we presented the communication in February with recommending the EU to adopt the 90% net emission reduction target. And since February, we have been extensively in contact and consulting with and engaging with member states, members of the European Parliament, as well as stakeholders. I do not have a full list, but I would also like to remind that we do have a transparency registry where, for example, Commissioner Hoekstra's meetings are all there and available. And he, of course, is the commissioner who is chef de file on the climate law. So as regards you are referring to the article that makes the point about the impact assessment concerning the use of international carbon credits. So if you look at the explanatory memorandum that was annexed to the proposal that we made last month, we explicitly announce that an impact assessment will be carried out, that we will analyze the impact assessments on the post-2030 framework and the possible limit on the use of these international credits, so that 3% of them can be counted towards the 2040 targets. So it is specifically mentioned in the memorandum that was annexed to the proposal. So it is absolutely incorrect to say that we are foregoing impact assessment. We have not studied any of these impacts. It is not correct. You are correct in saying that we made the proposal. It is now for political deliberation, both in the Council and the European Parliament. I do not have a date to give you when we are carrying this out, but it will be done. It is very much part of the proposal, and it will be carried out in good time.
Thank you, Anna-Kaisa. We have been together for about an hour. Still a couple of questions for us. Let's try to take them if they're fast. Yes?
Thanks. Krishnana with Ends Europe. Just to follow up on this specifically, I asked you about it last week, I think, on the whether DG Klima has made any internal assessment of it. Can you clarify that aspect of the question, please? Thank you.
I can assure you that all our services do internal assessments, a lot of them, and there is an inter-service consultation before even inter-service consultation. Again, this is going to our internal decision-making and preparation, but which we usually don't go into, but I think everybody in this room and all the spectators online are fully aware that when we prepare legislation, there are internal meetings, there are external meetings. Our external meetings are available online. There's a registry where you can see whom we've met with. So for sure, there was a thorough discussion, assessment in DG Klima. And all of this is laid out, first of all, in February, when we made impact assessment already, before we even made the proposal. It was just a communication implying the 90% target, and now, as part of the actual proposal, we have this memorandum where we say that we will do a thorough impact assessment on the use of carbon credits, because the carbon credits discussion was not taking place in February yet. That's why.
Thanks, Anna-Kaisa. Other questions for Anna-Kaisa briefly? Mose, is it for Anna-Kaisa very briefly? Because... Okay, go.
Sorry, Anna. Well, I flagged up. I have a question about these ongoing talks in Geneva this week about reaching a global plastic treaty. It's a continuation of talks previously last year in South Korea. I would like to ask what is the Commission's assessment of the chances to reach such a plastic treaty, and will it also include, you think, specific measures to stop maritime polluting and also dumping of plastic waste in Africa and other development countries? And last but not least, is there any target for how much plastic pollution should be decreased and by which year? Thank you.
Questions for Maciej.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Mose, for the question. Indeed, there are ongoing negotiations in Geneva on the Global Plastics Treaty, as you say. They started a couple of days ago. We have our delegation in Geneva, obviously. At this point, I can reiterate our position, which is to reach a global agreement to address plastic pollution. And more specifically, we want to tackle plastic pollution by addressing the full life cycle of plastics. That includes addressing unsustainable production and consumption of plastics. We are also in favor of phasing out of certain plastic products that pose most risk to health and environment, including those that contain certain chemicals of concern. And finally, we continue to advocate for an effective provision on environmentally sound management of plastic waste. So this is our general position. Obviously, I will not go into more details, not to undermine ongoing negotiations.
I still have several hands raised. I'll do my best to take them briefly. If it's for Maciej Sandor. It's Foreign Affairs. We have closed the Foreign Affairs chapter, so I would ask you to get back bilaterally to Anita, otherwise we will stay here really too long. John, is it for Maciej?
No, it's on the French wildfires.
Okay, then let's take this as a concluding topic, I would say. Thanks a lot, Maciej. You can go ahead.
Yep, John Ainger from Bloomberg News. Commission President von der Leyen tweeted yesterday that the Commission stands ready to help France out by mobilizing EU resources. I'm just wondering if France has made a request for any of the planes or other resources that the EU can offer. Thank you.
So, for Anna Kaiser to confirm, but I think that for what we checked before midday, I don't believe that any such request had yet arrived. Of course, things are happening very quickly, so we can reconfirm later whether the situation has changed. Anna Kaiser?
Correct. France has not yet made a request via the EU Civil Protection Mechanism, but we do have both pre-positioned helicopters and firefighters in place, both in France and in neighbouring countries, to stand ready to help as soon as a request comes. We have our EU-supported summer fleet specifically for this, because nothing ever changes except climate, and it is now causing these extreme weather events more frequently in Europe, and we are very well prepared for that. So we do have our troops ready whenever this request comes, as has been the case with many other member states as well.
Okay, Nico, question on this, I presume?
Yeah, I just wanted to check, given it's an above-average wildfire year, how many requests for assistance have there been total, and what kind of resources have been deployed altogether?
We have overall, so far, we have deployed more than 25 helicopters and planes. And we have helped Greece, Bulgaria, Cyprus, North Macedonia, Bosnia-Herzegovina, Albania via the Union's EU Civil Protection Mechanism, both with planes and firefighters. We have over 670 firefighters from 14 European countries pre-positioned across France, Greece, Portugal, Spain and Italy. And they are there to boost the amount of national firefighters in the case of help, in case of need. And we have a fleet of 22 planes and 4 helicopters across 10 member states, and all of these are coordinated and co-financed through our EU Civil Protection Mechanism. So we have both pre-positioned and we have made sure that there's a very good collaboration. People are able to move when there's a need, and of course the choice of these 5 member states reflects the areas where these fires are most likely to hit.
Thanks. I do not see other hands raised for questions on this. Nico, you have a follow-up.
Just quickly, given that there's pre-positioned assets, why do you think the French haven't asked for assistance, given that it's the biggest fire they've had since 1949?
This would be a question to ask the French authorities.
And of course, just to be clear, we're there to provide help and support. These operations are often complicated. Of course, member states also have their resources at national level deployed. So it's really for the member states whether to assess whether what the civil protection mechanism can provide as support is helpful at that specific time and that specific place and to what extent, etc. This is why we have a request system from their side, but indeed the ultimate question is for the French authorities. I do not see other hands raised on this. I suggest that we all go out and check if Olof is right and Summer is still there. With this... sorry? You don't mind continuing? No, but it has been already quite a long midday. It's 1:20 nearly. So thanks a lot for having participated, to interpreters, all the colleagues here. Of course, you can always reach us bilaterally in the afternoon, tomorrow, and otherwise we will see you next week for our next midday. Goodbye.